different icebreaker activities that you could use throughout the whole year, or just have an icebreaker binge in that first week of school. We won't judge you. We would probably do the same. So yeah, get on board. Choose a couple of activities to just have ready for that first day of school. And we guarantee your kids are going to be going home that day telling their family about something cool they did and something they learnt about their teacher and their classmates.
Yeah, it's even the mindset of like, okay, we finished that now. Everyone, let's play a game. As soon as the kids hear the word game, it's just that automatic yes. Welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education. Whether you're in your first few years or well into your teaching career, we are here to inspire, support, and empower you with bite-sized tips, simple strategies, and the motivation to lead an education revolution, one classroom at a time.
We're Ashley and Alicia from Rainbow Sky Creations, two Aussie teachers who love all things teaching and learning. We are here to help you thrive as you work toward making an impact in your students' lives while loving your life as a teacher.
We are here to help you bring joy, simplicity, and creativity into your classroom on the daily, because
there are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.
Let's get into today's episode.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Welcome back to episode 65 of Rainbow Skies for Teachers. We are in the new year and we are here to give you and bring you some fresh new ideas.
Welcome to 2025. Oh, when did we get old?
Speak for yourself, although I did turn 40 just at the very end of last year, so maybe now we're both in that category.
When you say 2025 and you go, oh my gosh, I graduated in like 1999. It's been like 25 years since I've, officially allowed to be out in the world doing things, living dangerously, living cautiously, whatever it might be. But yeah, I definitely resonate with the whole, you look in the mirror and go, oh, when did my face change? Nah, it didn't. It's all good.
My husband actually has an assistant and she was born in the 2000s. And I'm like, what is that? And she's an adult.
Yep, it's official. We are these wise teachers with a little bit of humor to make your day interesting, because what are we going to chat about today, Ash?
We're going to talk about icebreaker games that you can use in your classroom just to start off the school year and get to know your students, because the more you get to know them, the more you break that ice, in inverted commas, the more you're going to build up that classroom community, which is so important for your behavior management, your classroom management, but it's also really important for learning, because don't they say that kids learn from teachers that they like, but also teachers that they feel like them as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're that teacher who has to run something for admin, you could use this with your staff and drive them a little bit insane. You could choose one of these. Confession, I love an icebreaker. So whenever they're at a staff and they're like, we're doing an icebreaker, I'm like, bring it on. I'm in. Anything that doesn't involve hard cognitive work, I'm there.
I actually don't mind an icebreaker either, as long as it's not something like, tell us your most embarrassing story.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's it. If you're naturally a bit of a curious creature and you like to know people's stories, I feel like Icebreakers does exactly that. Like you're saying, it gives you that connection to that person. So connecting with your students is only going to be beneficial for the year ahead. So, I think we should just jump straight into the first one.
Okay, so the first one is one that I always land back on year in, year out. This must be the one that's top of my brain, and it's 2 truths and a lie. So you sit your students in a circle and you start by telling your class 2 things that are true about yourself and then 1 thing that's not, and they've got to guess what the lie is. So I always say, actually, should we play right now? Have we done this before? I feel like we've done this before.
I think we did this as guests for another podcast.
Okay.
So, have we? No, maybe we did do this in April last year. Flashbacks.
Now I've got to try and think of a different one because I always rely on the same one. Okay, I'll think of 2 truths and a lie, and Alicia, you've got to guess what is the lie.
Okay, no pressure.
I still live in the same town as I grew up in. It's number 1. Number 2, I actually have a hidden talent where I can sing. Number 3, I have really ugly toes. Which is the lie?
I feel like I could offend you with either of my choices.
I won't be offended.
I'm going to say 2.
Yeah, I can't sing. I really can't. I wish I could, but I can't.
I honestly can't remember looking at your toes, but I know your hands are so lovely that I feel like your toes would be on equal par as your lovely hands.
They're not.
So
They are not at all. Okay, you go. Give us 2 truths and a lie.
oh, okay. I love eating peanut butter and Vegemite sandwiches. I was the fastest runner in my year level for all of primary school, and I'm currently learning Spanish.
What could be the lie? I think it's number 3.
No, that's actually true.
What? I did not know this about you.
Oh, look, I'm about 4 months into a streak of learning Spanish. Look, guys, Duolingo really upped its game. So if you've been considering a language, get on board. But no, I was not the fastest runner in my year level. I was like the
I thought
fifth
that
fastest.
I thought that one was definitely true because you've spoken about being a fast runner before.
Yeah, but not the fastest. So
Okay, that was the trick.
hurts a little bit talking about it, but no.
Okay, so the key with this one is that you really need to get the kids to prepare their answers before they have a turn. Otherwise, it can be a really long game of watching them try and think of something. So you could even, if you've got older students, like maybe grade 2 and up, get them to go back, write down their 3 facts and then bring them to the floor to play this game. Because if they're not prepared, it can be like pulling teeth a little bit. But that is 2 truths and a lie. Okay, Alicia, hit us up.
This one is one that we've talked about before. And if you're on our mailing list, you would have got a free copy of this. It is our name detective. I'm going to credit this one to Ash because she's the one who told me about this one. And I've probably done it year after year with my class because it's such a good one. It is called Name Detective, where you give the students a slip of paper and they fill in a questionnaire. No more than 5 questions. And what you do is you collect them all up. Make sure you complete one as well, and you put it into a little bag, whatever it might be. And then throughout the day or the week, that first week with your students, you pull it out and the students have to guess who the person is. So you'll go, all right, I've got someone whose favorite subject at school is when they grow up, they want to be, if they could be an animal, they would like to be. So you tell all the 5 questions that they completed, and then the students have to guess who it is. And I love playing this game when you've got students who have been at the same school and there's a whole bunch of them who know each other, like 95% of the kids know each other, but you throw in this questionnaire and like some kids really throw off their classmates, while you've got those other kids who are super predictable, who have always wanted to be heart surgeons for the last 5 years, are still wanting to be heart surgeons. So everyone goes, yeah, that's Josie for sure. Anyway, Classroom Detective, it's just a really fun one. And then when you throw yours in, the kids are all like, what? No way. So
yeah, it is a really fun one. I remember when I first created this, I created it for a grade 2 class and they were sick for this game. Like every time we had a break, they were like, can we pull out one of the names? We want to see who they were. And then they said, can you put them back in when we finish and we'll redo them? And I was like, no, because we're going to know all of the answers. And they were just desperate to do another one. So we will put a link to a free copy of that in the show notes if you want to grab a copy for your class, because it's a great one. You can get it set up at the very beginning and then it can last you that first full week with your class.
And students might want to come up with their own new questionnaire if they're like as hardcore as Ashley's year 2 class.
Yeah.
Whether you do it again, maybe at the start of another term, but they might want to do it the next week. Probably.
I feel like grade 2s are always hardcore. Like they're always just so into the learning, aren't they?
They are. They're the best fan clubs, fan kids to have, where you just go, wow, that was a really bad lesson, but they really enjoyed that.
Yes. Okay, the next one is called Lucky Dip Questions. So you need to have a bag of coloured blocks or counters. You could have Skittles or M&Ms. We created this game a long time ago and then COVID hit and we were teaching this game online and we were like, okay, so now you can no longer have Skittles or M&Ms because of, you know, the COVID, but we could probably go back to this now. So you have a bag of coloured objects and then every coloured object in the bag is linked to a question. So say you've got counters and you've got a red counter, that question might be, what did you eat for breakfast? The orange counters might be, who's in your family? Yellow, the best pizza topping, so on and so forth. The students pull out an object and whatever colour they get, they match that to the question. and answer it. Now, this one's really good for those little introverts in your classroom that really
Yeah.
feel like they can't offer up a lot to begin with. You're going to have those kids out there that are happy to tell you everything and anything about themselves. But this provides that scaffold for those introverts, and they can just give you a little answer and it gives you a little bit of insight about them.
Yeah, I love to do this activity in like a big circle. So everyone's kind of looking at each other. It's kind of inclusive. And if you're like, oh, I don't have a bag of counters or pom-poms, I'm sure you have a bag of counters, but you can also just do it with the dice. Like the kids pass the dice around, they roll the dice and a number is equal to that question. And it's the same one where you can mix this up. You can have one set of questions and then like do this later in the year when they need to reconnect a bit more and add in different questions. Or even like feelings or how things are going in the class, if you're finding that things are getting stuck or there's a bit of friction. And it can be just a nice icebreaker for a class meeting. If there's some tricky topics you need to talk about, particularly, I'm just going to say probably friendships. I always found that sort of thing would happen partway through the year. And just kind of, you could throw a question to actually have a discussion and get kids sharing how they're feeling about something. So that's just a little add-on on how you can adapt it later on in the year.
Yeah, so that's the Lucky Dip game. Originally called the M&M game, now called the Lucky Dip game.
Yeah, like it. Versatility. It's good.
Okay, I'm going to take the next one because it's my favorite. And then Alicia's going to do the one after that because it's her favorite. And, you know, we're not above these things here at Rainbow Sky.
No, not at all.
Okay, so this one's called the paper plane game. So you give every student a piece of paper. And it's fun if you have a few different colors, but, you know, whatever tickles your pickle, go for whatever you like. Color paper, plain paper. Ask students to write an interesting fact about themselves on the piece of paper, and then they fold that piece of paper into a paper plane. Then everyone stands around the outskirts of the room, throws their paper plane to somewhere in the room, and the students pick up the paper plane that lands closest to them. Then you need to bring the students back together, everyone back together, sitting in a circle, and ask them to read the fact on the paper that landed in front of them. So as they share the interesting fact, they need to try and guess whose plane that they got. And it kind of is a little bit similar to the class detectives, but it's just one fact. And older kids really love this sort of activity because of the plane idea and throwing the paper plane. But it's just a really great way just to get them to know each other as well.
Yeah, I think the discussion first starts with, how do you fold your paper plane?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what's happened at my kid's daycare at the moment, but she's like hardcore into paper plane creating. And she's like, how do you make yours, mummy? Is yours the best one? Does yours fly the best? I'm like, whoa, steady on there, kid. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah, everyone has got their own special technique, don't they?
Yeah. Find your budding engineers with this one. But yeah, a really good one. And then this one, it just seems so much fun. I usually do this as a whole class. And then Ash showed me this and went, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. We as adults have heard about good old speed dating, our single friends. So we've got speed friending. So you sit students down in pairs. I would do like a big circle, and then inside you've got a little circle where the kids are sitting, and then they just move around. But you're like, what are they going to ask each other? Great question. Would you rather questions? And you can make this as silly and as serious as you want. And I think you can guess I'd be going as all out silliness as you could with this one, where you get the kids to sit down for a minute or two and they ask each other a couple of would you rather questions. And then they just, you ring a bell, ding a dong, and they move around to the next person. So just asking those, would you rather have lemon squirt in your eyes or eat a rotten banana? So just fun questions like that, or would you rather be constantly itchy or constantly sticky?
Ooh.
What would you be?
I don't know, because the sensory part of being sticky would really get under my skin, but itchy's just, when you're itchy, it's the worst. It takes over your mind.
And that's where you go, is there an option 3? What would be a better option for everybody?
Yes. But it's great because kids are able to talk about and explain why they've chosen that thing. So I would rather be constantly itchy because, and then they're really justifying their answers.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding an element of relatability and also just kind of understanding what makes certain people tick in certain ways. So a really just fun one. And then you can always just pull these out as a whole class and do like a whole little class recap, at the end of the week with some of these would you rather questions. But a really great way to, break the ice.
Definitely. These would you rather questions, we love using them at the beginning of a unit with persuasive writing as well, because it gets kids really thinking about how they could say what they would rather and why.
Yes, absolutely. And then we've got one last one. or 2?
Let's go 2. Let's do the team building towers and the place value game.
Alrighty. I'll quickly do the team building towers is a really fun collaborative activity and it's a great STEM activity. So the aim is that the students are broken up into groups and they have to use, ideally, if you've collected a big pile of newspapers, I don't know, I feel like schools are great at collecting excessive newspapers. So, you find that pile and you want to break your students into groups. Now, I'm going to say you might want to be a bit strategic. If you already know a little bit about your class and you might have some strong leaders, you might have some quiet achievers and just, your regular Joes, mix the kids up where you've got some strong ones with the quieter ones and just see how they go at working as a team. It's really good feedback for you. And really the aim is that the students have to use sticky tape and newspaper to build the tallest tower. Obviously a tower that's going to stay up. You could do something similar where they have to build the strongest bridge across 2 desks to carry or to hold an excessive load of blocks or whatever it might be. But any sort of STEM collaborative activity is a really good one to do in that first week just to see how your students work with others. And it's just a fun one. And you're going to discover very quickly your super competitive kids as well, because they'll be having a bit of a tanty if things aren't going the way they planned, or perfectionist, whatever it might be. So just a really interesting one.
You know what I was thinking when you were talking about splitting the kids up? I was like, we're teachers. But if we weren't, if we were producers of reality TV, we would get all of those kids that were the real leaders that wanted things their own way and put them all in a group and watch it combust.
Yes, that is ratings right there.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Although not the best thing to do in the classroom.
Yeah. Do you know what? If there is a teacher who does do that, hit us up. I want to know the results. I want to know the outcomes. How many tears were shed? Hair was pulled.
Yeah. How long did it take to sort everything out and calm everyone down afterwards?
That's it. And then we've got one lucky last one for you, probably one that we love. We love these sorts of ones.
We love these ones, but also it ties in the learning because at the beginning of the school year, now in Australia, we're going back to school in February for the start of the school year for any of our Northern Hemisphere friends that are listening. But you can still do this game in the middle of the year too. So you make up cards that represent a number, and then you give each student a card and they need to mingle to find their match. So it's similar to a loop game. We will often draw like MAB blocks or write a number out in words or do a simple addition, and they need to try and match. So for example, it might have 5 10s and 4 1s, and then it might have the words 54, and those 2 members need to find each other and sit down. It's a great way to start conversation. It's a great way to talk about mathematical language. It's really great to get peer tutoring in there where they're coaching each other and talking to each other, because if they come up and say, oh, does yours match? No. Can you see you've got 7 1s there? That doesn't match my 54. I love going to Bunnings, which is like our local hardware store, and collecting those paint chips, the colored paint chips. I don't know. It's just something about the colors that I love. And I get my own kids to help me because the people in Bunnings never get cranky at kids. And we just collect all these fun colors and we create these on the cards. And it's just using a marker and just drawing them up super quickly. Do them in pairs. That is going to be my tip. So if you've got 54, do your 2 54s, put them aside. Then 75, do your 2 75s and put them aside. Now, we're talking 2-digit numbers here, so that would be good for grade 1, grade 2. As you're moving up, you can use larger numbers.
It's a good one. When you're just talking about Bunnings, which is a hardware store here in Australia, I think you just officially declared that you are in your 40s now, because my kids will be like, I'm like, Dad's gone out. They're like, has he gone to Bunnings?
Well, hot tip for any parents out there, on really rainy days that we haven't been able to get out of the house or do anything, sometimes I take my kids to Bunnings and we just walk around, because it's like this huge shed. For anyone who doesn't live in Australia, it's these like massive sheds, and they have little trolleys for kids. And you can just spend a good 2 hours there just wandering around the aisles, finding cool things.
They got a playground, they got a little coffee shop, and sometimes they do free activities for the kids, like in Halloween, where we stopped and we were there for 2 hours because we were, anyway, and they got heaps of plants and just fun things that you can use in your classroom to stay organized. So it's just win-win for everyone.
But this has turned into an ad for Bunnings.
I know, he's buying shares. But look, that game where Ash has shared using those paint slips or just any sort of paper, like it is a really good one. And the kids really get on board. And anything that involves them having to try and guess and find a match and mingle with their students is always a win. So let's quickly recap. What were our icebreaker games that we have shared today, Ash?
Okay, so we've got 2 truths and a lie. Make sure that your students are prepared for this one before you start playing. Name detective or classroom detective. So we've got a link to a freebie of that one in the show notes. Lucky dip questions, aka the M&M game, but we can't call it that anymore. Where you need the bag of blocks or coloured counters or anything to ask random questions. The paper plane game, speed fronting, where they ask would you rather questions. The funnier, the better. Team building towers, putting a bit of a STEM slant on icebreaker activities. And finally, the place value who am I game.
Now, if you're like, oh, I really like these games, we've actually made an icebreaker pack. So we've got a bunch of would you rather questions. We've got a bunch of actually different icebreaker activities that you could use throughout the whole year, or just have an icebreaker binge in that first week of school. We won't judge you. We would probably do the same. Get on board. Choose a couple of activities to just have ready for that first day of school. And we guarantee your kids are going to be going home that day telling their family about something cool they did and something they learnt about their teacher and their classmates.
Yeah, it's even the mindset of like, okay, we finished that. Now, everyone, let's play a game. As soon as the kids hear the word game, it's just that automatic yes.
Yeah.
So we will put the link to that resource of the icebreaker games, the ready to print ones, in the show notes as well if you want to check them out. Well, I reckon that's a wrap for today, Alicia. What do you think?
I feel like for the start of the new year, I think that is definitely a wrap. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you feel that you've got a teacher who would benefit from some of these icebreaker games, they need a bit of a refresh on how they start the year, just make sure you share this podcast episode with them, because the more teachers we get out there and share this information with, just honestly just brings joy to our hearts. So have a fabulous day. And until next time,
There are rainbows ahead, my friend.
and together we're unstoppable.